Okay, Mr. Flores, we're ready to go.
All right. Call this meeting to order. The August 26, 2020 public meeting is called to order at 6:03 p.m. Let the minutes show that all members are in attendance either virtually or here in the boardroom or in the administration building. Can we please stand for the pledge? Mr. Sepulveda, can you lead us in the pledge?
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, communications and visitors. This is the way that it's going to be done today. Is if we have any any emails, or I guess that's the only way to correspond. Any emails during the presentation, that those questions will be taken by Ms. Copeland. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so then we're going to move on to our public meeting to discuss 2020-2021 Fabens ISD budget and tax rate. Mrs. Copeland.
Hello, good evening, President Flores, board members, and Dr. Vigil and Fabens community. This evening, we're going to be discussing the budget and tax rate that we're proposing to adopt. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Can everybody see the screen in the PowerPoint? Can you hear me? Because I know I talk pretty soft.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
Okay, so this evening it is our public hearing for the budget and tax rate adoption for the upcoming fiscal year 2020-2021. We will be presenting a comparative revenue for the allotments from 2020, comparing it to 2021, the COVID revenue funding forecast and how it impacts on the historical and projected enrollment, our property value trends, the voter approved tax rate, our estimated tax collections, our proposed budget for the general fund for year in 2020-2021, proposed budget for the Child Nutrition Fund 101 for 2020-2021, proposed budget for the Debt Service Fund 599 for 2020-2021. The Board of Trustees are responsible for the appropriations of the General Fund, Child Nutrition Services Fund, and Debt Service Fund. With that said, we'll go ahead and go into the foundation allotment and revenue differences. We did want to let the board and community know that our revenue estimations, they're both based on the OMAR template. And that's a tool that school districts are given in order to more appropriately forecast our revenues. So it's not going to tie back to the summary of finances, which is posted out in the public on the TEA website. For the program intent on our regular funding, we are going to see a difference. We're projecting a decrease of 224,000. And small class size, a decrease of 7,000. Special education, we're projecting a decrease of 22,000. In comp ed, we are seeing a slight increase of 4,600. And bilingual, decrease of 17,210. Career and technology, decrease of 27,000. Early education, decrease of 16,540. School safety, right now it's looking the same. Transportation, same. And career, college, and military readiness, it's looking like it's going to be the same funding. So in total, projected foundation revenue funding, we are looking at a difference based on the OMAR template of $311,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. Our next slide is just historical enrollment data. Our enrollment data for the 2019-2020, we are utilizing the ADA. It's based on the TEA hold harmless COVID ADA calculation. So the funding, we were giving guidelines on how to calculate the funding and how it was going to stand for the end of this fiscal year. And the number that we came up with the PEMS data and reporting is 1,999. In order to be conservative for year-end 20 and 21, we also budgeted the fiscal year for 2020-21 based on the TEA hold harmless data. And the calculation and the number that we were given by TEA it's out on their website, and we picked the number that TEA had given us of 1,453. We will be reviewing our enrollment, and we will be updating it as we move into the new fiscal year. And in November, we will calculate our new ADA numbers, and we will adjust the budgets accordingly. This slide represents the next net taxable certified CAD values in comparison to the projected T2 values from the state. The preliminary CAD value had originally came in on July 5th, the last value that had been submitted to us at 230 million. And there was a decrease in the certified value, and it ended at the 225 million. From that value, we go ahead and adjust the value so that we can come up with the T2 value, because that is the value that the state will be funding us. Historically, there's been a trend that the value from the certified value from CAD to the T2 value that the state comptroller sets, it's typically, and it's been consistently under, it comes in at 4% under. This slide is for a visual historical trend on the state comptroller's values for the past 5 years. These values are important because, again, this is what our state funding is based on, therefore assists in calculating our tax levies. Budgeting in a conservative way means budgeting these values at a slightly higher value than what the state comptroller will return. I don't know if anyone has questions on this slide. I will not read through the details of this slide. It is simply a reiteration of what we presented in the July board meeting when proposing the tax rate to publish. The district projected that the district's values would remain at the 4.01 growth rate or lower. As such, our prediction was realized, and the TEA recommendation was already published, and it was set at a recommended rate of 1.0547 to be our MNO rate for 2021. This is the value that we have published in the public notice earlier in the month. Our estimated tax levy for year-end 2021 utilizes the CAD certified values for 2020. and the projected T2 state controllers values that will be set early in 2021. We reduced the estimated collection rate to 98% due to the unknown factors of how COVID-19 has impacted our community, businesses, and residents. Our total estimated tax levy for 2021 is set at $2.213594 million, and our total estimated interest and sinking tax levy for 2021 is $589,487 for the upcoming fiscal year. Our for year 2021 taxable values for funding will be based on the final taxable property values set by the state comptroller. Our net impact to taxpayers for this year from the 2020 certified central appraisal values resulted a value of $50,839 in comparison to $48,723. And this is the amount that our taxpayers will be paying for the average taxpayer home. The net impact of change to taxpayers will be $26.93 per $100 value in this example. So in this case, they just take the $50,839, multiply it by the proposed tax rate, and then they divide it by 100, and that's how they how we come up with the $26.93. Please note that the budget comparative slides that we're going to be reviewing with the board and community do not have the 2020 final budget amendments that we're going to be presenting later in the evening. Special notes on the budget came into place during the 2020 fiscal year because of HB3, and the notification will remain in place. The notification is, and I'll go ahead and read this, that function 41 includes 15,223 and object 6499, statutorily required public notice to publish all statutorily required public notices in the newspaper. A portion of membership dues of approximately 1,552 was paid by the district. It is used to directly or indirectly influence or attempt to influence the outcome of legislation or administrative action as those terms are defined in section 305.002 of the government code. So here we are looking at the revenues in comparison to the original budget adopted for 2020 in comparison to our proposed budget for 2021. Revenues in both years, you know, again, I just feel it's important to keep letting everyone know that we're utilizing the OMAR revenue projection template and as recommended by TEAs. The revenues do differ from the published summary of finances that can be extracted on the TEA website, as revenue budgets are forecasted to the most current known or projected enrollment numbers. Fabens keeps informed on the changes of enrollment and attendance, and it reviews its revenues estimations throughout the fiscal year and amends budgets accordingly. So if we can see, we are on the local and intermediate sources, a 0.79% increase in the proposed budget. For the state program revenue, we're projecting a 2.84 decrease. In our federal revenues, a 22% decrease. And TRS on behalf, a 24.27 increase. So the net change from the 2021 to the 2020 budget is a decrease of 1.65 in our revenue for the upcoming fiscal year. On our expenditures, there is a decrease. There are decreases and increases. So for year 2021, we aligned our expenditures to the projected revenue and utilized historical data in addition to holding discussions on projected expenditures for district operational needs. On most functions during 2019 and 2020, we aligned expenses to actual year-to-date spend and revised areas in which salaries had been coded. This caused a slight shift in the functions and program intents. Under the Child Nutrition Fund, that's the one that you will see the biggest increase. We budgeted a contingency expenditures in the areas of fuel and transportation for child nutrition, as these areas are being utilized to deliver meals to students. I am uncertain how long the Texas Department of Agriculture will continue reimbursing us for those expenses going into the new year. As such, we did go ahead and budget a small amount so that we could have money to pay for those expenditures. Under function 41, when we present the debt service fund, we are projecting that there's going to be an increase in the debt service transfer out. Under our capital outlay, we didn't budget the $85,000 this fiscal year because our grant funding is going to be paying for our computer leases. However, if there is a need for any capital outlay or any improvements, administration will be bringing those requests to the board for prior approval during the fiscal years. And now we're going into the Child Nutrition Fund, the proposed for 2020-21. We're projecting a slight decrease of 2.84% and an increase in the food service expenses of almost 10%. We will continue to monitor the Child Nutrition Fund and amend budgets as necessary throughout the fiscal year. Our proposed budget for the debt service fund includes a 14.25 decrease in the state program revenue and a transfer out increase of $189,171 in order so that we can have a balanced budget and be able to meet our long-term debt obligations. And at this time, we invite the public to ask questions or comment or address any concerns.
Ms. Gonzalez, Ms. Michelle Gonzalez, is there anybody that's any comments or questions?
No, sir. At this time, there are no comments or questions from the public.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I guess we can move on, Ms. Copeland.
Yes, and I imagine if the board and the public doesn't have questions, then this was the presentation for our public hearing for the budget and tax rate adoption.
Okay, if there's no questions from the board, then we will, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and then we will resume at 6:30.
Yeah, unless you want me just to show the last two slides of the proposed budget as a whole, and then just the tax rate, the M&O tax rate of the 1.055%, and then just the combined financials, with all the funds.
That's fine.
I don't know if you can still see my screen. Can you still see my screen?
I can see the adjourn, just the, you know, our Board of Trustees agenda item to adjourn.
Oh, okay. And if you want, if everybody just wants to see this will be this was what I'm going to present to the board in the next meeting, but it's just a summary, like all three funds, the general fund, child nutrition, and debt service. So we will be proposing to adopt a balanced budget in each of the three funds. And we will be recommending to adopt the proposed tax rate for 2021 at an M&O rate of 1.0547 and interest and sinking of 0.2808 for a total of 1.3355 for 2021. But
Okay.
those were the last two slides.
All right, we've all got copies, so if anybody doesn't have any questions, then we'll adjourn this first meeting and take a 5-minute break, and then we'll resume.
Ms. Cole, Mr. Spence,
Yes, sir?
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
What was the tax rate last year?
The tax rate last year, let me open this. It was 1.3383. So
Okay.
it's
I just
it's
trying
a
to recall.
very
Just
slight
wondering.
decrease.
Any other questions?
Sure. Ms. Copeland,
Yes,
and you said that our tax rate would increase the per $100 worth of value for our real estate. What was it, 20, an additional $26?
yes, 26.
Okay. Thank you. And that's on top of what they paid last year. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Okay, motion is made by Mrs. Sylvia Gonzalez, seconded by Mrs. Gallo Avitia. All those in favor, Mr. Sepúlveda,
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Escobar,
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avitia,
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Mr. Spence,
Aye.
Mr. Flores, aye. Motion carries. We'll resume at 6:30 in 4 minutes. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. The August 26, 2020 special meeting is called to order at 6:30. Let the minutes show that all members are in attendance, either virtually or in the administration building. Can we please stand for the pledge? I'll go ahead and lead the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, first order of business is communications and visitors. This is Michelle Gonzalez. Do we have any emails?
No, sir. At this time, there are no communications nor visitors.
Thank you. Next order of business, remote homebound instruction for special education students. Mr. Jorge Sainz. Mr. Sainz, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know if y'all can see me. Okay, I'll go ahead and.
You got cut off. Mr. Sainz, I believe you got cut off. Got that.
Hello, can you all hear me and see me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry about that. I don't know, I'm not sure what happened there, but
Yeah.
yes, good evening, Board President Flores, Dr. Vigil, and members of the board. In accordance with the Texas Education Agency's Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, when one of our schools requests homebound remote instruction for a special education student through the Students Admission Review Dismissal Committee, ARD Committee, a waiver request has to be approved by the Board of Trustees and then by the Texas Education Agency. So tonight, I am asking for your approval for remote homebound instruction for a special education student to meet the individualized needs of the student in a manner consistent with state and federal law. And at this point, I am prepared, I should say, to answer any questions that you may have.
Is there any questions? Well, there's no.
Mr. Sainz, through the
Yes,
board, to the chair.
Yes,
How many students do we have that are going to be homebound?
Right now, it's just one student, Mr. Morales, at the elementary school. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Sainz, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
This is Ms. Gonzalez. What are we doing right now temporarily for him? School
Well,
started?
Yes, at this point, Mrs. Gonzalez, while we are awaiting a board and the TEA's approval, the student is receiving virtual instruction services, just like any other student. So it's a combination of the synchronous and the asynchronous support that the student is currently getting.
Is the parent involved with the student? Are they meeting his needs accordingly to what you're presenting to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Through our teachers?
Yes, so yes, the teacher is very, very much involved with the parent of this particular student. Yes. So there's constant communication going back and forth between the parents and the teacher to help meet the needs of the student.
Okay, so at this time, he does have a Chromebook or some device for them to be working with you at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Science.
Okay, so at this time, the administration requests your approval for remote homebound instruction for a special education student.
Make a motion to approve for homebound
Second.
instruction for special education student.
Okay,
Second.
motion has been made by Mr. Ben Morales and seconded by Mrs. Sylvia Gonzalez. A motion has been made and a second is open for discussion. If there's no discussion, I'll call the question. Mr. Sepulveda,
Okay.
Mrs. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Escobar,
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avitia,
Aye.
Mr. Morales,
Aye.
Mr. Spence, Mr. Spence, Mr. Spence, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm back on.
Okay, I'll call the question. Do you want us to restate I'm not sure how long you've been up. Mr. Spence, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. No, just go ahead. Do the vote.
Okay, and I'm on you. You were next. You want aye or?
Okay, aye.
Okay. Mr. Flores, aye. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, next order of business, discussion and selection of inclusion, exclusion of students from extracurricular activities and elective courses during remote instruction. Dr. Vigil and Mr. Jake Belcher.
Board members, today the decision or this item regards the remote learners' ability to participate in extracurricular activities. If the majority of the board allow remote learners to participate in extracurricular activities, no resolution is needed. If the majority of the board opposes remote learners or allowing them to participate in extracurricular activities, then we must submit a resolution to the state.
Any questions?
This is a board decision.
Any questions or comments?
Through the board
Yes, sir.
and the chair. I've been looking at this, and as a matter of fact, I even got in touch with Ms. Angela Mora, who is the interim public health director in El Paso. And we went over some data. And then we also, I think you guys shared the graph that they showed us as far as this particular community on it. So I had previously looked at this and started to look at small pockets here, there, and everywhere, and how are we going to control this? And then by what I heard from Ms. Mora today, and the graphs that was shown to me, I would leave it to, as far as how we're going to go with this, as far as to the team of 8.
Okay, so, yeah, any other questions or comments?
Through the chair, is Mr. Belchi on remote?
I'm on.
Mr. Belchi, this is Mr. Morales.
Sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes. If we go ahead and go about doing this approval, do we have a plan in place so we can protect every single student?
Yes, so we have guidance from UIL and TEA. There's a mitigation plan in place. It's about a 16, 17-page document. On top of that, we've have put other individual plans in place with all the athletic directors in the area. We all met with Dr. Ocaranza today from the county, and he told us today that he's going to go ahead and allow sports to move forward. So we do have a plan in place. We have a mitigation plan in place, like we did this summer when we did go 3 weeks during the summer with in-person athletic activity. So
you feel pretty confident we can go about and go ahead and do this?
yeah, I believe yes, we can. And I think that with the help of UIL and state regulations, I believe our kids are here in school safer than being out on their own in gyms and in, weightlifting areas, Planet Fitnesses, EP Fitnesses. We have a lot more strict guidelines than those places. And so, I mean, I drive by and I see parks full of kids and in El Paso our guidelines are going to be stricter than that. So I believe I believe we will be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Belchi. Dr. Vihil, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you feel confident, comfortable that go about doing this?
Yes, sir. And just as a reminder, what's in question is what the board decides about remote learners. Are you going to allow remote learners to participate in extracurricular activities, including sports and elective classes? Or is it the majority of the board that wishes for students to go to school full-time in order to participate in extracurricular activities? To answer your question, Mr. Morales, about athletics, I can tell you that Coach Belchi and I have exchanged a number of documents, and he asked for feedback. I provide feedback, ensuring that we have paid attention to all the details that are necessary for us to move forward so that I can unequivocally say yes to your answer. Yes, we are taking a look at every vantage point and making sure that we have provided the safety measures that are necessary for this to move forward.
Thank you.
Chair.
Through the chair.
Coach Belchi? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
And that's one of my concerns because we had previously looked at absolutely no contact sports as per the guidelines that were set as perimeters prior to this. And I'm still a little leery about how, once we get going, how this is going to be conducted. And you said you had a 16-page document that entails or it shows you guys how to take precautions and whatnot. But still, it is going to be a contact sport. And then we can have one of my concerns that I had was we can have a controlled environment, but we cannot have a controlled environment when these kids go home.
That's true. We can't control kids outside of the school.
Right.
But I will remind you all that the rest of the state, 1A through 4A, has already begun, and they've started contact sports area. Starting from Van Horn and moving out, you have schools of Pecos and Alpine who are getting ready to play their first football games after their scrimmages this week, and they've already played, I believe, almost 3 weeks of volleyball. So there are areas that have begun, and as far as I know, There hasn't been a school that has shut down their athletics that have began so far.
No, there's Coach, there hasn't been a shutdown of them, but there has been some students tested positive, if you will. And I'm talking about, you know, east, and like you said, east of here, because that's going to come into play once we get out and start venturing out
Right.
eastbound.
Right.
So that was one of the concerns that I have, because once we start playing in this district, everybody goes and moves on, first, second, third, and fourth. And depending on, you're just playing, as far as I'm concerned, for seeding till you get to by district. Now, I have some documents that showed where 17 students out of the Dublin area ISD tested positive. And that's why my reason that I asked about how are you gonna make sure that these kiddos are safe? Like I said, they're gonna be safe while we got them here at school. But you and I know that once they leave school, there's gonna be additional activities going on.
I mean, all we can do is control what we can control.
Well, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
That would be part of it, because
kind of off
as they're coming from their environment, which is their home, and onto the field, we got to make sure. Are we going to be testing these kids, or what are we going to be doing?
Dr. Vigil wants to answer that, but I know that we will be doing the screening process like we did before.
Which entails what, sir?
Which entails temperature checks, and the screening is like a 11 question screening that they'll take, that they have to provide every day when they do come into school and when they come onto campus.
And that's the old I want to play, and it's on the honor system for them to convey any information they do have. So what I'm saying is that the utmost safety procedures have to be taken into consideration, because this is contact sport.
Any other questions?
Yes, through the chair. After looking at the graphs and seeing that we're way below the 7.5, which is one of the criteria, I feel pretty confident that our kids will be safe. And I feel like you do, Mr. Sepulveda, that this is a horrible disease, but if Coach Belshi says that they're taking precautions, I feel our students will be safe. Maybe if one of the questions in the questionnaires should be about how loyal they're going to be, keeping away from people and just dedicating themselves to practice, maybe that can help too.
If I could, Ms. Gallovitia, I think that that's a great segue to say that we have known people or participated in sports and extracurricular activities, and we know the importance that coaches play in children's lives. Mm-hmm. And if it is a strong bond, then the students want to perform for their coaches. We know this is true for great teachers and for coaches who develop those strong relationships. So yes, we are in the honor system. It is a self-evaluation. The same question is asked every day. It's asked of our employees who come in. And we have to trust that the honor system is going to work. And so, yes, I believe that the coaches have to establish those relationships as they do. As you see it on social media, they're asked to do their workouts virtually, and they do. And so I do think that there is an opportunity here to teach our students integrity and honesty through this process.
Yes.
Through the chair, Dr. Hill, that is correct as far as the summation of what the coaches do. But like Coach Belchi said, you know, they can only control what they can when the students are there. And I'm looking at some that's real relevant here for our area, and that's Cathedral. And believe me, I know some of the coaches that are there, and it was canceled. You know, we just have to be on top of this big time, 110, 115%, because there is no need for us to start up and then close down or shut it down. You understand what I'm talking about, Coach?
Yep.
Dr. Vigil, I mean, I'm on board with all this. I mean, I think, you know, this is a professional organization, and yourself being the captain of the ship, you know, it's very, you know, I have all the confidence and the trust in you. So I want to go back to the agenda item. Just the question that I have is more, this has to do with remote learners. So what about those that are not remote learners? Are they going to be able to play?
Yes, this provision is just whether the board wants to exclude remote learners from participation. That's what this is. That's what this agenda item is about.
So you're still going to have a population that's going to still be able to play. So, you know, I mean, I mean, it just, you know, I mean, I know it's a funny agenda item, I guess, or whatever, but the reality is that if we say, no, we're not going to allow the remote learners to play, then they're just going to all become face-to-face learners. And then we're going to have the added issue of having kids come into our schools now because you know, they want to play. So to me, that's just, you know, I don't know. I just think that, you know, I understand, but you know, the reality is I feel like we're discriminating against one population versus the other. I mean, the other one's going to be able to play, yet the remote learners are not going to be able to play. So I think that's enough for me. And you have the confidence in your athletic director and your athletic department, and so I think that's just you know, that's how I feel. I think that's what we need to get going. So.
Right, and thanks for getting us back on track with the agenda item. So what we need to know right now is where the board members stand as far as the exclusion or allowing remote learners to participate in extracurricular activities.
I'll make the motion to allow.
I want to have a question before we do that.
Okay, there is a motion on the table, Mrs. Gonzalez. But if we get a second, then you can speak during the discussion phase.
I second it.
Okay, a motion has been made by Mr. Adan Escobar and seconded by Mrs. Rosemary Gallo Avitia. A motion has been made and is seconded and is now open for discussion. Mrs. Gonzalez?
Yes, discussion. Dr. Vigil, we met with you yesterday in reference to, my concern is this: what liabilities does the district have? You said you're going to look into it on the liabilities of us if we decide to do the remote instruction and allowing, you know, them to participate, and also on the athletes. But before you answer that, I think that talking about the liabilities, I think that is really up to the parent. It's up to the parent to decide whether they want their children to participate. But at the same token, what liabilities do we have under the district, TEA, to where, you know, that's a concern for me. Dr. Vahid?
Well, I think your question is in general about all athletes. And
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
yes, and so the liability would be the same as if we were not in a pandemic situation. And so there are provisions where the athletes sign, there's insurance available, all of those kinds of abilities, all of those are afforded to any student that participates in any extracurricular, not just athletics. And so, again, I go back to the table of this decision is about allowing remote learners to participate in extracurricular activities. I know that what your question is, I think it's about athletics and the liability that the district incurs by even allowing them to participate. And again, I would say it's the same type of liability that students would have to fill out forms, get parent signatures so that we have all of that on file. I hope I've answered your question.
To the chair.
Do we have it right now due to the fact, I don't know for a fact, but possibly like just Coach Belchi said that they've been training for 3 weeks in the summer. I don't know, have they been continuing playing through the summer as of right now? Mr. Belchi, question. Have they been continuing practice since we started school or we started the season for any sport?
Virtually, yeah, we have, but not in person, but virtually, yes.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Vahid, that was my concern because I think as a parent, that would be making my decision if I let my children play. But also I'm very concerned of liability because it will come back and haunt us. We represent the community. We all are, it looks like everybody, some of the board is ready to go to start playing. But the thing is that for me, I don't want to be in my conscience that something were to happen. Okay, so that is my concern. I know that we're all are trying to do the best decisions that we can, but I think bottom line on this is the parents' decision. And if it, unfortunately, something happens, then that was the decision on the parent. And that's all we can do for right now. And I know that we're taking all the precautionary measures. My question, the other question I have is for Mr. Belchi, Mr. Belchi. On the testing that you said that you have the temperature check and the 11 question, is that done on every day that you will be doing a practice? Will it be logged and be visualized to where somebody's going to be accountable for that documentation in case something happens during the time of a play for the district?
Yes, yes, and yes. All that will be taken care of by myself and by our athletic trainer.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. So is the athletic court, it would be you said the athletic coordinator, which is
Trainer.
okay, and you do, if Dr. Vahid were to ask you for that documentation, you would have it, right? To where, you know, we gotta make sure we do all the proper precautionary measures if we're gonna continue this, just for the safety of the student, but also the liability of the district. Thank you, Mr. Belchi.
Okay, through the chair, and Mr. Flores, you had touched on something that's really important, because you said that this particular agenda item will reflect whether we say yay or nay, because if it's nay, we're going to have another subgroup that's going to want to be what? Playing this particular athletics, and at the same time, going to what? Maybe even move out of the virtual and just start creating their own subgroup. And then that way I can get a little bit more of our second module that we go into with this partial 101, just so they could play. Yes.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I'll call the question. I was talking, sorry. I'll go ahead and call the question. Mr. Sepulveda,
No.
Mrs. Gonzalez,
Nay.
Mr. Escobar,
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avitia,
Aye.
Mr. Morales,
Aye.
Mr. Spence,
Aye.
Mr. Flores, aye. Motion carries 5-2. Okay, next order of business, approval of Fabens ISD 2019-2020 budget amendments. Ms. Copeland?
Hello, Board President, Dr. Vigil, and board members. I'm going to share my screen again. Sorry, I'm trying to get it on the screen. I think it's on the screen now. Can everybody see it?
Yes,
It
ma'am.
is, it's on.
The PowerPoint slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so we were able to email, I hope everybody received a copy of the final 2019-2020 budget amendments for closing out the current fiscal year for the district. We're going to begin by reviewing the general fund. In this instance, I do have a lot of columns, and I just wanted to be as transparent as possible with the board. So this budget amendment is actually reflective, not of the originally approved, the adopted budget for this current year, but the budget as the amendments have been made. So the budget that's being presented on the first column is the budget as it was in our last board meeting in August. The second column is the column in which I'm adjusting the 2020 budget. These are the final budget amendments. The third column will be the final updated general fund budget. The fourth column is the Fund 266 on the ESSER funding. So the budget is also going to be reduced, if we recall, by the federal funds that we're going to be transferring, and the 1.3 million of revenues and expenditures. So the budget amendments that I'm requesting is for the second column. I am requesting to update the year-to-date receipts on the local revenue. Our taxpayers did pay over 100% for the current fiscal year. On the local and interest, I'm reducing the projected interest earned. Interest rates have been lower. the state revenue for TEA. In addition to the ESSER fund reduction, the new OMAR template is showing a decrease of an additional 399,000 due to the hold harmless and ADA due to COVID. The state funding for HB1, I'm reducing it by 132,000. And I'm sorry, that's not in the right area. It should have been in the budget amendment on this title. It should have been for other federal funding, because the federal funding is the one that I'm needing to reduce by the 132,000. And that's the difference in the reduced SHAR revenue for 2019, 2020 of what we've collected this year. We still have another claim pending to be reimbursed to us, but it won't be realized until the 2021 budget. So it's going to be a total reduction of revenue of $378,000. On the expenditure side of it, it won't be as significant in reducing that budget, because when we had amended the budgets back in December for the revenue and we had budgeted the expenditures, we had left 110,000 unallocated. So going into the expenditure, the columns still mean the same thing. In function 11, that's where I'm taking the majority of the reduced funding. I'm reducing the budget in the function 11 by 388,000, which corresponds to the revenue reduction, a portion of it. The other portion of it, I'm also transferring to function 13. I need to increase this budget by 112,000 as employee salaries were transferred from title funds into the general fund during this fiscal year. For function 21, I'm requesting to increase this budget by 15,000 for unforeseen year-end accruals to be sure that we don't go over our expenses, don't go over the budgeted allotment. Function 23, that's where I'm moving budget from function 23 into function 21 to cover the projected difference. Under function 31, I'm also going to decrease the budget by 20,000. On this area, it's looking healthy. So I'm taking 20,000 from function 31 and moving it into function 34 for transportation. Transportation, we are expecting a little bit more expenditures for year end. So I'm just want a little bit of money in there to ensure that our expenditures year to date after we close out the year and as we get close to the audit, that we don't exceed in that area. Under function 36, I'm requesting an increase of 35,000 for year-end accruals and other expenditures that we incurred during the fiscal year. There was a little bit of unforeseen expenses there that have already occurred. Function 41, there was no increase. Under function 51, that is where I'm taking the money to cover up the projected need in function 36. So I'm decreasing the budget by the 35,000. And the final three budget amendments, I'm reducing the data processing function 53 by 7,000 and increasing function 61. This is for year-end accruals, to cover year-end accruals, and function 99, also to increase it due to year-end accruals. So the total budget increases and decreases is 276,665. And the reason why it doesn't tie exactly to the the reduction in revenue, it's because if you see as of August 1st, 2020, there was 101,000 that we hadn't budgeted for in the expenditures. Once we do complete the updated budget amendments, and if it's approved by the board, we will have still a balanced budget. Fund 266, we're also going to be reducing, of course, the general fund. So that's what you had approved in a prior board meeting. And the bottom line, this will be the new expenditure, 23,343,121, and it matches with the revenue up above. This is for the general fund. For the child nutrition, the budget, what I am requesting to do, I know the board had previously throughout the year approved for us to utilize fund balance, and you approved the expenditures for us to purchase equipment because we have a healthy fund balance in the child nutrition fund. So I'm asking the board for approval to be able to increase the expenditure side on the child nutrition fund by the 94,168, which is the equipment and supplies we have purchased out of fund balance for the child nutrition fund. For the debt service fund, there will be no change at this time. Administration doesn't see a need for the change. The transfer in does seem like it's going to remain, so we're going to leave it in there for year end. And I don't know if anyone has any questions on the budget amendments and any of the slides.
Questions? Chair. Yes, Ms. Copeland.
Yes.
You had mentioned a $20,000 increment to the general fund that was going to be adjusted to transportation. Did we earlier say that who was picking up the tab for right now for transportation? Some of it?
Right now, part of it for the COVID, it's the Texas Department of Agriculture, but it's not all the expense. Not everything is being allowed.
Right. But there's still a good percentage of it that is.
Yes.
Okay. And we do not know how long this is gonna last.
No, we do not know.
Depending on the COVID probably. But yeah, because I'm looking at this 20,000 and as opposed to what we had, and then the Department of Agriculture picking up partial of it. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just looking at it because you would think that we're already in what, August and coming into September on it.
Yes, and I'm also accounting for the transfers are also for the year-end accruals. So payroll really can't complete their year-end accruals until after August 31st. So I'm setting that little bit of money aside. Since the accruals haven't really been done in the system yet, what we did was we went ahead and did a spreadsheet, and we estimated all our accruals and even the unforeseen from what I experienced last year. Just a few commitments that may have not run through the business office. So I'm just accounting for that, and that's the reason for,
Right. Yeah.
for the amendments.
And again, that was just my question, because since the Department of Agriculture is picking up a portion of it, and I was just looking at the $20,000, I said, but that's 2 months of monies that are not going to be spent in that particular item or that function, if you will.
Well, I believe we've still been delivering the meals. So the expenditures have still been there. I know the summer program picked up some some of the expenditures. But I think we've already billed for that. Because the summer program was actually the one that paid for most of the expenditures for transportation and the child nutrition.
Right, and don't get me wrong, because we're still delivering, and transportation is a very vital
Area, yes.
this district. But
Yes.
I was looking at the fact that we have a couple of months that's going to be paid for by the Department of Agriculture, and we're asking for an additional 20,000. If it's 20,000 just for the balancing of the budget, or is it a need?
It's for unforeseen year-end expenditures.
Right, I saw that on the right-hand column where
Right.
it's unforeseen, and in 2 months that particular agency will pick up. 2 months is quite a bit of change. It's probably more. It's way more than 20,000. That was my observation on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or concerns or comments?
Yes, Ms. Copeland, I had two questions, but one of those was what Ray brought up. My second question was, you had 35,000 having to move over to athletic function. Was that in salaries or something we had to come up with, or what was? I mean, because we didn't have, from spring break on, we didn't have any athletics, so I thought it would have gone down some. I know we got to pay stipends and everything else, but I was just wondering what we're looking at right now for the $35,000 more in that.
Yes, and it was it was due to unforeseen expenditures that occurred during the fiscal year, and how we ended as of June, when contracts ended for teachers and people that didn't necessarily come back to work. I could answer that question in more detail. I'm not too sure what I can respond in the public board meeting, but it was payouts that we weren't expecting for this fiscal year that were unbudgeted for.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms.
Yes.
Mr. Morales, so those 35,000 weren't for the athletic department?
Yes, because the salary was tied, some of the salaries were tied to the athletic department.
Thank you.
Ms. Copeland, I have a question. This is Sylvia.
Yes.
On the child nutrition, on the 101.
Yes.
In reference to the local revenue catering and sale meals, what does that entail?
In this area, that was the local catering of all the catering that we do within the district. So for example, so it's like an intercompany charge. So if we have, I'll use our example, a board meeting, and if we were to buy dinner, then the superintendent's office or the business office would pay back child nutrition. Or if we have an event, I believe another example was, I don't remember which event it was, but the one that we had at the middle school earlier in the year.
Ms. Copeland, like the board appreciation.
Yes, the board appreciation. That was a very nice event. But yes, those are the samples of, or when we have meetings and the district chooses not to go to a vendor, but instead we use our cafeteria. personnel.
Okay,
So-
and on the federal revenue and breakfast and lunch revenue, you said we are also being helped by, what is it, you mentioned, I forgot it. Look, I lost my train of thought. In
From the
reference,
summer school funding?
yes,
Yeah, so in this one, the revenues are expected to go down, but I'm not gonna, it's not significant in nature from what we've collected. So we are gonna be transitioning a few of the expenses out for year end, out of the expenses in this fund in 101, and we're gonna transfer as much as we can into the summer feeding program, because that's the program that was covering us, I think, since April. And the child nutrition fund, this budget actually, on the revenue side, it decreased.
okay. So also on the fund balance and the revenue, is that what we have right now? Or that's just, is this predicted for us to have?
No, on the
balance?
fund balance, I was just displaying it so that we could still try to show a little bit of a balanced budget, but fund balance, we typically don't, the system doesn't allow us to budget fund balance. And the fund balance is actually just offsets the expenditure of fund balance. So last year we had a little bit over 750,000 of our fund balance was made up of the child nutrition program. So of that 750,000, the board approved for us to purchase $94,000. So it's reducing the 750.
Is that what for the equipment that we bought and all that you will need it for the cafeterias?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, that was.
And right now I know Ms. Licerio, she has other requests pending for the Texas Department of Agriculture to approve. But we're still pending to for their approval before we can present those items to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Copeland?
Okay. So at this time, administration requests to approve and apply the proposed year-end and final budget amendments for year 2020.
I so move.
I second it.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Rosemary Gavitia, seconded by Mrs. Sylvia Gonzalez. The motion has been made and a seconded is now open for discussion.
Okay, through the chair, Ms. Copeland, I'm
Yes.
still looking at those $35,000, and Mr. Spence brought up a good point, because we had a couple of months there that we pretty much shut down, and then for the beginning of this year, there was I think it was Mr. Spence, 2 or 3 additional coaches that are not going to be on board. So you had said that some of those were tied into salaries, as far as teaching salaries. So could you give me a little bit more of an insight on that?
It was. Yes, and it wasn't people that were teaching, and actually the way Fabens ISD pays out contracts is on a 12-month period. So even if you have a 9-month contract, we're still paying you for the 12 months. So the salary savings for the coaches on the stipends that we didn't renew, we'll see that salary savings in 2021. Because those, the first paycheck will actually be received for the September 30th paycheck. That's when those new contracts kick in. But the 35,000 is just to help us offset. And it wasn't really straight out salaries. It was services and fees that may have been paid on settlements.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, I just have one statement, Ms. Copeland, to make.
Yes.
Next year, if we could just actually get this, we need to get this budget prior to the day of. I mean, because we can all look over it, all go over it, have all these questions, a lot of these questions. The day of getting this budget is a little bit too quick. We need to get it in earlier. This has happened the last, not just the budget, but last month we had stuff given to us the same day. And this might be to Ms. Vigil also. We need to stop getting information the same day so we can go over it. Because some of us work and we barely get off work and we have to go over this real quick and cram. And this is a very, very special. I mean, we need to really look on it.
Right. And yes, and I'm sorry about that. I purposely requested to present this at the last minute, because what we do at year end is that TEA and for the audit, we only have until August 31st to try to accrue and forecast for anything and everything for year end. So that was the reason. But we are going to start using our frontline system. So I'm happy to announce that we've been getting trained on our system so that our system can actually help us do the accruals instead of us having to do so much manual work. So so hopefully, you know, I'm confident that hopefully next year we will be able to provide you this information at least two or 3 days in advance. So we are looking towards automating our processes as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Vigil, maybe if it's the end of the year, just like Mrs. Copeland informed us, maybe then we should have a meeting later in the month so we can go ahead and approve things prior to trying to get all the information in, so we don't have to have so many special meetings. I know it's going to be continuous, but I think like Mrs. Copeland said, that if she needed more time to make sure everything is in. So I think it's been done before that we meet not on the same meetings that we have every third Wednesday of the month, but things like that, maybe we can push back. It's just a suggestion. Dr. Vigil?
Yes, ma'am. We'll take a look at the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Copeland, this is Mr. Morales.
Yes.
Is there any way you can provide us a copy with the itemized items for those $35,000 for the athletic department?
Yes.
Could you provide us that for the board, please?
Yes, I can provide you with the foreseen expenditures. I'm still not I'm not predicting that we're going to be in the deficit in that line item. It's just I'm just waiting for those year-end payroll accruals to post. Unfortunately, well, we have new staff in our HR and payroll departments. So because of that, we'll be able to know better where we stand once those final payroll accruals post in our system. And it will be after August 31st and after the payroll reconciliations are complete, if that's okay.
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to follow up. I got the budget, you know, a week in advance. Did not everybody else not get that? I mean, we didn't get the budget amendments, but we never do, but the budget we got, right?
That's what I thought Mr. Spence was referring to, the budget amendments.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But the budget we did get, that is
Correct.
I believe, okay, yeah. The budget amendments, we just usually get them the day of, yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure, because if nobody else got the budget, then we ran into a problem. But anyway, okay, so we've got a motion on the table. Any more discussion before we move on? Okay, Mr. Sepulveda? Mr.
Aye.
Sepulveda? Hello, Mr. Sepulveda?
To the chair. Aye.
Okay. Mrs. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Escobar?
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avita?
Aye.
Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Spence?
Aye.
Mr. Flores, aye. Motion carries 7-0.
No, I'm
Okay,
not sure.
next order of business is the adoption of Fabens ISD 2020-2021 budget. Mrs. Copeland?
Okay, so dear board members, I'm not sure if you want to see my screen again on the presentation. Let me close out the budget amendment. And then I'll retrieve the other one.
Board members, would you like to see that on the screen?
I know everybody has it in their packets from the public hearing.
I don't think we need to.
Okay.
I agree.
I think we're good.
Okay. So at this time, the administration recommends to adopt the 2021 budget for the general fund, the child nutrition fund, and the debt service fund as presented in the public hearing.
So move.
To approve?
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Greg Spence and seconded by Ms. Cecilia Gonzalez, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion has been made and second is now open for discussion. Since there's no discussion, I'll call the question. Mr. Sepulveda?
Aye.
Mrs. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Escobar?
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avita?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Spence?
Aye.
Mr. Flores? Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next order of business, adoption of Fabens ISD 2020-2021 tax rate. Ms. Copeland?
Okay, administration requests to adopt the 2021 tax rate of $1.0547 for M&O and an INS rate of 0.2808 for a total tax rate of 1.3355 for year 2021 as we presented in the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Ray Sepulveda, second by Mr. Ben Morales. Motion has been made and a second is now open for discussion. Since there's no discussion, I'll call the question. Mr. Sepulveda?
Hey.
Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Escobar?
Aye.
Mrs. Gallo Avita?
Aye.
Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Spence?
Aye.
Flores? Aye. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, I just wanted to congratulate the administration and the board for doing a really good job here. I don't know of any other government entities that lower your taxes. So I think that's a great job. You know, I guarantee all the taxpayers, I'm sure appreciate that. So good job to the administration, good job to the board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Ben Morales, seconded by Ms. Sylvia Gonzalez. Mr. Sepulveda? Aye. Ms. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Escobar? Mr. Escobar? Mrs. Gallo Avitia?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Spence?
Aye.
Mr. Flores? Motion carries. I didn't get anything from Mr. Escobar, so 6-0. This meeting is adjourned at 7:35.